Oh, hi. Hermit Terra Energy. Yep, that probably sums me up. I think Hermit sums me up quite nicely. I'm gonna just sit out here till I have a revelation. There's another one. Fade it out. So there were, and again, it's back to the whole like forest for trees thing. I never really go back and look at my videos, but I know for a few days, like everything was glitching. And so I went back and started just like slowly, frame by frame, looking at that video, and it was like, it was like stepping in and out of reality. Like those weren't glitches. Like it was a world and a world behind a world. And again, there's that whole thing about just like movies, like the frames in a film reel. Like there are those little blips in between that you can't quite catch. I think reality's a lot similar. You know what's funny? So, early on, the whole siren thing used to bother me. And it would always be like a situation where, no matter where I went, ambulances or fire trucks, right? They start blaring, and then suddenly you get all, But I found that recently, I kind of enjoy that sound. And I know that's kind of screwed up, but I don't know if I've ever told this story before. I'm sure I have, because I made like 8 jillion videos. But, and again, it's those moments where you're just like, shit, excuse my language, but like, shit is fucking weird here. And, you have those moments where it's just like staring you dead in the face. I was walking down a street, and it actually had just been like storming. And all these like emergency vehicles come just like barreling by, and there were like at least like 5 or 6. There were fire trucks, there were ambulances, there was a fire marshal truck. No police cars, just emergency vehicles. And so they all like swerve ahead of me, and again, that kind of noise, that kind of racket. And then as I'm walking, because again they're way ahead of me, I finally get to, like, I guess wherever they stopped at, and this is actually, it's funny because it was raining. This is like right when the rain kind of cleared out, because like it was raining, emergency vehicles, and then I turn the corner again where they're supposedly at, and all I see is like idle emergency vehicles. Okay, I'm not talking about vehicles that somebody stepped out of. I'm not talking about, no, I'm talking about they were dead. There was no activity, because also too, if you know anything about emergency vehicles, they just like all the lights and crap, it keeps going. No, they were absolutely dead. It's like somebody had just pulled out the batteries and everything stopped. No lights, no people, just sitting there. Like crazy. So crazy. Like I've been in neighborhoods and entire like sections of town that are just like, you walk through them and it's just like it's dead. It's like somebody turned off the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And then you turn a corner, you do a thing, and suddenly there's people walking around. Suddenly there's, it's just like, nah, dude, this wasn't a thing a few minutes ago. I mean, literally, I've been in sections of like neighborhoods where like even the street lamps are off. Turn a corner, everything's back on. People are, but and again, you see these things, you experience these things, and there was a guy, I was listening to him talk, and he called the process integration. And I guess this is where you integrate the atypical things into your life, and you don't let it, like, whatever. There's been a lot of that. There's been so much of that in my life. I forget a lot, you know. All the weird, strange things. Again, it's not even weird. It's just the deceptive nature of the world around us. Do not look behind the curtain. And it's also kind of like you go through the whole the stages of grief. Because you have to understand, there's a mourning process that you have to go through, because the world that you thought existed never existed. And there's a lot of parts of that you got to deal with. You got to deal with it. Um, like legitimately right now, there's like, because I can hear them in the trees. Like I hear things moving around in the trees. Like, I mean, like something's up there climbing, and it's not a possum, not a raccoon. That doesn't bug me because I have no problem with the trees. I have no problems with forests or any of that stuff. So, to jump back to Pluribus, it's a show about. So, I think it's like SETI. They get a signal, and it's from some planet, um, X amount of light years away. I'm kind of giving away a little bit of a spoiler, but this really doesn't, Um, and what they think is a just kind of a standard communication, it turns out to be a sequence for a compound, kind of like RNA, and they begin working on the compound in a lab, CDC, whatever, and they can't figure out what, like, they're not getting results from it. They're testing it on rats, and long story short, one of the doctors, she gets bitten by a rat, so she gets infected, and it was only ever meant to like really affect humans. And what it is it's not Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? It's not like the whole pod people thing where like you have a invasive species that is mimicking a human being. What it is all the people who were infected with this compound, they show traits like people who have been infected with the virus. And the thing that is communicable is their consciousness. So everybody in the world becomes linked to a hive mind. Everybody. Because it happens so fast and it happens so, like, they get, key members of government, blah, blah, blah. And then they just start, and there's a really interesting scene where, like, they're spraying the sky, like the chemtrails. So everybody gets linked to this hive mind. It's not, like, people are no longer people. They are merely faces for a single organism. Everybody's thoughts, everybody's, everything is all. And so the main character of the show is one of, I think, like, it's a small number, like 15 people around the world that aren't affected by it. And this hive mind, they're claiming that they only have, the best of intentions for the main character, all while saying, like, her life is her own. But as soon as they figure out whatever the hell is, the problem, they're gonna, like, assimilate her too. I mean, it's the Borg. It's the Borg from Star Trek. Like if the Borg retained, I guess, their emotions and their memories, kind of like that. Because in a Borg colony, I mean, they are literally just drones. No emotion, nothing. They just... But in this show, it's a little different. Anyway. I'm just saying there are pools of consciousness that people are tethered to. Sometimes they're aware of it, and sometimes it's more amorphous, I guess. But it's that thing where, so many people are just like, every time I come outside, my two neighbors come out at the exact same time. And it's like, well, it's because it's a hive thing, and it's tethered to the same consciousness. It is what it is. Some unseen force has... Hello. Some unseen force has its tendrils or whatever, and it's using some things, like puppets, like Muppets. And there are a lot of Muppets. A lot of Muppets. That's what that was the point I was trying to convey in a previous video when I was speaking on Freemasonry and the specifics of the initiation rites. That is to tether you to their energetic grid, their pick out any name you want, they're tethered to that. That's why like in the process, like there's a toe around your ankle because you are tethered to that monster. And some are completely idiotic. No less like dangerous though, because they can still be utilized. And then you have the other ones that are, a little higher on the totem pole, but whatever. There's like, like the collective consciousness is a part of it, but there's also there are different versions of that. There's a more natural, organic version of it, and there's also like this fake crap that's out there. It's just like everything else. It's like that's a big part of like what's going on right now. Their natural grid systems and energy lines and all this stuff, here within this realm. And what they did was they they put stuff on top of it. So, to serve their function. And it's covering up the original thing. Like, if they can't subvert it, if they can't invert it, then they want to try to graft something on top of it. It's the nature of the monster, man. Like, that is such a big part of all of this. And it can never be a simple it can never be a simple undertaking, because all that crap has to be shut down. It has to, it has to be turned off. It has to be undone. The world wants to breathe. It wants to breathe so bad. And it's been smothered, and I mean, there are entities or forces like so many others are just kept locked down so they can't flourish or even exist. I'm rambling. You just have to, wisdom. Hey, time. I think the most frustrating part is, like, I know there's stuff locked away in the back of my head or in other places. Can't quite get to it. I think at this point, I don't really want much. And if I can just, you know, when the lights go out, just be a person that can just hold a flame or something so everybody else isn't, or other people aren't, you know. Oh man, my dreams are so a lot's going on. It's like secondary existence. um Sometimes information is imparted to me. I try to like write down or remember, you know, what like I got from, but so much of it is, you know, you wake up and it's incredibly jumbled. um like I've gone places, seen places. I mean, there are other worlds, other realities, you know. I'll tell you one thing. um what I've noticed is that, and I've mentioned this before, and I kind of brought it up again to a friend today when I was having a conversation with him. It's almost the feeling of being fractalized, like light, and you are spread across multiple wavelengths. And sometimes, you know, those fractalizations uh, condense back into themselves. Yeah, it is. It is. It's like a really bad TV show. Um, there's a freedom. Okay, so I'm sorry, I forgot. Anyway, so I find myself existing among like multiple realities and places, but what I've noticed is that something's happening in those places too. Like it's a big event, a cycle change. It's rippling, it's echoing. Like it hasn't quite got here yet, but I've been in places where it has started to happen, like really started to happen. And it's crazy. It's really crazy. I don't know how exactly to explain that, but it's like God dropping a stone in the pond. Like when God's ready to change the flow of the water, he drops a stone in the pond, and it has a centralized point or place, and then it ripples outward. And that pond is, you know, I hate using the word multiverse, using the term multiverse, because it's so like, but whatever. That is the, you know, all the different realities. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of my big issues. Is I feel like, to quote Bilbo Baggins, you know, when he told Frodo, it's like being butter scraped over too much bread. Um, And I think there's a constant point. There is an in between. There's an in between with me so much that I literally just like I blink in and out and I bring crap with me, you know? Like when I was going back through the footage of my own videos, like where all that glitching stuff was happening, I mean, it is the craziest stuff. It's like something was just um, ripping the veil open or ripping reality open. Yeah, it's I also think there's a very strong element involved. The idea that when an entity is fractalized across multiple realities, um, it's really hard to get rid of them. No, but I need the implosion. You know, like it's part of that process. Like it's definitely part of that process. Um, Bouncing back and forth. I'll give you a good one. And I hate myself so much for losing the photos. But I swear on my life, this is the situation as it occurred to me. About 4 years ago, I was out walking, okay? And I was walking through the forest, and because of like how crazy the terrain was, you know, I just kind of put my phone in my back pocket. And I just go about, you know, what I was going to do. I'm hiking through the forest, walking through the forest. I do that. I come out. I think I get a phone call or something, and I pull out my phone and I look, and there are all of these images. And I swear on my life, there it was at least like 10 photos. Because see, what happened was my phone was in my back pocket, and it was the camera was faced outward. And I guess it was snapping pictures. What I didn't know was that somewhere in between that forest walk, I went somewhere. Because in those pictures, I was in an open field. You know how you have you have like a camera will take pictures, and it's like the way it's positioned, you see like the bottom of your legs or your feet, whatever. I was in an open field. I had no recollection of that area or that terrain. And I was wearing a white robe. I'll never forget it. There was a white robe dangling, and the camera caught it. And it's like I would walk, you know, a certain distance. Yeah, on my phone. I would walk a certain distance, and it's like, I guess the phone would just like snap a photo, and then I'd walk some more, and I guess it snapped the photo. So there was a decent amount of photos, and I'm just like, I knew that was me. It was so weird. It was so weird. And just to kind of give you like, I was wearing a t-shirt and jeans that day and sneakers. It was so weird. Yeah, like there's so much stuff that, like, again, I've forgotten. It seems like I've forgotten more like in the last like 4 or 5 years, because like when things started to happen for me, it was really intense, and it just, so I have seen things. I have, like, and it was, when it first started happening, it was like the condensed version. I guess it was like, I don't know, boot camp or something. So, I would take photos, and I've lost so much of that stuff, because you go on to the next thing, and it's just like, well, okay, I don't even know what to make of this anymore, and you just go on to the next thing. Like a couple of years ago, I was I had taken a picture in my backyard, and it was, I don't know, like after 9 o'clock. Um, didn't think anything about it. Come back weeks later, going through all my photos, and I noticed yeah. And I noticed, again, when I started freeze framing it and going like frame by frame, there was it looked like a star in the distance, and it happened so fast, like half of a second, and it's in the sky, then it seemed like it was right over me. And then as I was going, like, kind of framing over, what I saw, I couldn't see. I think it was some kind of vehicle. I couldn't see any like real detail on it. All I know is that it was in front of me. It was glowing orange, and there was a platform to walk into it. And it almost looked like the platform was made out of light. And all of that in just under a second. That's crazy. Not crazy, but it's like all the weird stuff with the streetlights where, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's like the whole thing with the streetlights. It happens so much. I just, and I knew something was happening, something was taking place. And it's funny because it wasn't until recently I discovered that those streetlights that I was interacting with, that were turning off and on when I was around them, they all had that same orange glow, because they were all sodium vapor streetlights. Didn't even know what that was until recently. That is an older form of streetlight. That the light they use, they put an electrical current through sodium vapor, to ignite the light. Something about that is very important. And I've stated so many times, what would happen is, I go around town and interact with the lights that I know I can interact with because of whatever. And give it a couple of weeks. What ends up happening is if I start messing with it, a few weeks later, they'll take that light down and replace it with one of those new LED ones. I'm not entirely sure. I always thought I was O positive. But I don't know. What I will say about the whole RH thing, I do believe I believe a portion of that, because I do believe that there are. Yeah. I do believe that to sum things up, to condense them, would be to say that there are a lot of us. We are carrying DNA, blood types, information from our ancestors. But not only that, we're carrying information, coded information from previous cycles. And that's in our blood. It's funny. Yeah. Dude, the way my life is, there have been so many, lies and weird things involving me. I wouldn't be shocked if stuff wasn't moved around and, my mom used to work. My mom used to work for the for the government, and she worked for an agency that to this day I don't know exactly what she did. But there was a lot of weird stuff in my childhood where I was taken to places. Like, for example, my brother and I were taken on a trip to Washington, D.C. when we were kids. And we were told that we were there to go to see the Smithsonian, to visit the museum. But while we were there, we were also taken to a place where they did medical tests on us, like drew blood, did weird stuff. There's a lot of that in my history, in my childhood. It's funny because Max Spears had I remember him talking about the different blood types, and he said that there was kind of a blood type that certain people have that kind of gives them a predisposition to almost like that beehive type of interaction. He talked about O positives too. He talked about O's being more physically, they heal fast, they're able to do crazy stuff in short bursts. No, I think blood's important. And only because I just think that a lot of us we're walking the repositories for old stuff. And just like I was talking about, um, the grids, the cycles that they try to sweep under the rug, like that's why they pay so much attention to like who you are, when you got here, you know. They know. And there's also stuff in our DNA, our blood, all that that's been turned off. But I assure you, very soon, that's not going to be the case. It always reminded me of there was a Superman comic called Red Sun, and the premise of the comic was that it took place in a different universe than the one we traditionally know. So instead of Clark Kent, his ship landing in Kansas and being found by the Kents, I think it crashes in like the desert near some government agency. So the government gets a hold of baby Superman and his ship, and they figure out, yeah, I've never gotten any of those. But anyway, they understand that Superman can metastasize like sunlight. So what they do is, from the moment he's like a child, they keep him underground. So he never knows what he can do. He's skinny, he's emaciated, he looks nothing like the Superman that, everybody's familiar with. Because he's been kept underground in a government facility his entire life. And it's not until they spring him out of prison and that sunlight hits his face, and it's just like night and day. Night and day. Have I found other ways that I can use my spiritual gifts? Probably not to the extent I should. I'll be the first to tell you that I can be quite bitter at times. So there's a lot of like alternating between, man, F this place, and between everything else. I don't force myself to focus on specific elements that maybe I should. In the sense that you just get caught up. So I'm gonna tell you something really weird. Very strange. Huh. So, no more desire. That is words to live by. I'll tell you one of the biggest, and then I'll go back to the other thing. One of the biggest things that I find myself going back and forth with is trying to silence that part of me, because for so long I kind of knew what I wanted to do. You know, I was going to work in the film industry and do all this stuff. Granted, no way in hell would I ever, knowing what I know now, but it's just like, there are those times where I catch myself, like, again, this ego, like, sinking back into that. You think about writing a book, but it's more so because you're thinking about the reaction to said book, which is completely meaningless because this place is a fucking clown show. Excuse my language. But back to what I was saying, I walk a lot, and people will tell me that they see me in different places. And I've had people, like, they'll tell me, like, yeah, I always see you on different, parts of town. You're just, here, there. And they'll give me, like, these names. And the weirdest one by far, and it's never, like, evil or malevolent or, like, being snippy or, they just seem genuinely, like, interested. I was in the store. And this woman comes up to me, and she's like, I see you all the time. You're always walking. And she's like, for some reason, I don't know your name, but I've always just called you Benjamin Franklin. And that was just really, really weird. And I told her, like, oh, okay. Like, trying to draw the parallels there. Maybe I have to really sit down and figure it out. I know, it was a puzzle piece. It's so funny you said that, because, like, it's one of those, like, things where it's just like, like, like in movies or in a, or it's like, I can't tell you the thing, but, I get those, as I'm sure most of you guys do. But yeah, I know it felt very much like a puzzle piece. Who really knows, right? Because the fiction that they present to us about so much involving, but what I will say about Yeah, yeah. No, no, I know about the electricity thing, dude. I know, I know. Um, what I will tell you about Benjamin Franklin, and somehow I just know this intuitively. Like that whole story about him, like, with the kite and the lightning and the key. I think he was trying to, like, trap. So what I've discovered about lightning is like lightning like reprograms things. Lightning is a type of information, and sometimes you can catch it. Yeah. Like if a person got hit by a bolt of lightning, depending on the circumstances behind um said interaction, it could like rewrite their entire energetic structure, because that's kind of what lightning does. um yeah, yeah, no, it does. Nope. Yeah, no, that's why that story was told like that with the Flash and all that. Like, and the funny thing about the Flash though is like what I find interesting about that entire story is on a larger level. Barry was connected to this metaphysical thing called the Speed Force. And the Speed Force creates speedsters. And it utilizes different methods to create speedsters. Inevitably, it's going to create a speedster because they came into this world connected to the Speed Force. No, I've shut down cars before. Like, I'm conscious of these things. It's that thing where you have to sit back and go like, okay, now I have to figure out exactly what I was doing at the moment to replicate that thing. Um, and I know enough to know that when I get into certain states, um, the minions start to scatter because something is like I'm giving off a type of energy. I was just learning to trust my gut. And when you see something and it's presented to you in the way that. In my bloodline, my mom's got stuff. My mom's clairvoyant. The problem with my mom is my mom whatever. I don't want to get into it, but um, honestly, if we're being honest, um, I think a lot has to do with my father, and I say that in the way that the man that I always thought was my dad, I don't think he was. I mean, he's my dad, but like biologically, I think I was fathered by someone else, and he's an odd fellow. And I don't mean that in like the fraternal order way. Um, oh no, like so. Um, I don't know my real father. I've had a lot of people point me in directions, but for the most part, um, I don't. It's funny. Years ago, I got this woman did a reading on me, and she told me that I wouldn't really understand myself until I understood my father. And I thought she was talking about the man that I always assumed was my father, but there have been more scenarios where I'm being shown, it is what it is. My like the man that raised me, my dad, I mean, I that's that's a can of worms. Like he's a Jehovah's Witness, so he'd probably want to burn me at a stake. Not really, but I don't think my dad is from here. Make of that what you will. Um, that's up for a lot of interpretation, but that's what I think. Historically, um, according to the legend, like Merlin he never had an earthly father. And over time, that has gotten mixed up, embellished, twisted to like sometimes he's like the son of Satan, sometimes he's the son of an incubus, a demon. I just think that Merlin's father was different. That's all. So, there's a lot of races that existed once that making the wind blow and stuff. Um Maybe. I mean, there have been times where, like, I could feel myself manipulating the wind. Again, it's just one of those things that, it's hard to replicate. Things tend to happen when I get angry. Talk about lightning. Like, I got angry on a trip at the beach, and I mean, it was so I know it can be done. The details would be the interesting part. And in this world, like, if they can't use you, if they can't do a thing with you, make you, I do question, like, the authenticity of somebody just out there doing stuff, I believe you. Yeah. And see, and that's the other thing too. It's like you get to that point where you have to stop, pull yourself out of that mindset where you're just like, this, no, it's happening, and you're having an effect on your environment. Like, if we're being, like, real, but that's what those Highlander movies were about. Like, take away all the decapitation and sword fighting. That's what those movies were about. Just yeah, we're going somewhere. That's for damn sure. We're going somewhere. And it's so funny because how do I protect myself spiritually? That's a good question. A lot of my spiritual protection is I have guardians. Yeah. I have guardians that protect me. It's not always a surefire thing. A lot of what I do, it's like, it's, I don't want to say mental, but throwing up shields, man. That's part of it. Throwing up shields, dude. I don't. I don't have a set spiritual practice, if that's what you're asking. But I do believe there's a lot that I do believe in, which I have no problem talking about. I find that with black magic, hexes, baneful stuff, being aware of like where it's coming from and just putting up a block against it. You don't block everything, but like I work with a guy who does that. He's a Mason, and trust me when I say this guy throws shit at me all day long. He tries to hex me. Anything he can do to upset my balance. And it's all, again, most of it is it's energetic, it's spiritual. You can feel it when it hits you. When they're throwing stuff at you, you can feel it. This guy, yeah, he has, there's some stuff. I think there's some stuff that he's not talking about. Because there's also a situation too where it's not a sustainable thing. He's gonna like, consume himself, eventually. But no, you can feel it. Like, I'm in my own little section or station, and he'll walk by, and like, my man just like drops stuff in my area. Like, I swear that they have like little imps or goblins or demons, familiar spirits, whatever they use. And weird stuff will just happen and it's like, oh, you're throwing crap at me. But a lot of time I bounce it back. A good way to do it is just to stay like, I keep myself in a good mood. Like, I'm not infallible, I am, but I dance around a lot of that crap. Some stuff I didn't even know. Oh, because I was gonna make a video about this, but it's like Mr. Magoo. I'm kind of convinced like the dude was just like he was a wizard, he was a magician. And I think the charade was making you think that he was this feeble old man who couldn't see. If you watch those cartoons, again, I just get drawn to stuff. You watch those cartoons, look at his surroundings, look at how those scenarios play out, and generally it's involving an adversary that is trying to like, kill him, mess up, you know what I'm saying? And he just skates through it. And yeah, you could put it through the lens of, oh, he's blind and he's a bumbling idiot. Nobody bumbles into stuff like to that, accuracy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really interesting. I also metabolize evil shit. Like, I have a I almost like freaking cut off my finger last week, and it was a situation where I do woodworking, I carve, and I was yeah, alchemy, yeah, transmutation. Um, I was carving, and the blade just like out of nowhere, the blade just slipped off the edge of the piece of wood, went right into my finger. And had it not hit the angle, like it would have gone straight through. Like that was a very sharp blade. It would have gone straight through. And yeah, that wasn't normal. And that's not the first time things like that have happened to me. Again, I shrug it off and keep going. I didn't quite shrug that off. That was a process. Um, but yeah, I've been in situations like that, and it's just like, yeah, like you can be doing something and they can send crap at you to like egg it on, or to like, I don't know, make it blow up in your face. That's part of it. But aside from the things that we're not aware of, because you're not always aware of everything. And I think that's where your higher selves, guardians, God, all that stuff comes into play, to kind of like watch your six when you're not exactly aware of it. But I find that when it comes to like black magic and stuff, like taking the piss out of it does wonders. Like they need to, for black magic to really work, it requires you to be in a specific mindset. I'm not no, it doesn't offend me. Um it doesn't offend me. Like I don't know, like we're on our own paths, I guess. But no, I take, like, if it resonates, I'll you know you can always use something else in the toolbox. I think my yeah, I mean, so as far as that goes, like I think it's less like a list and more like they're aware of you. Like they become like, okay, so it's like in the Matrix where everything was more or less hunky-dory until you started doing crap that did not align with their system. Then suddenly, Susie Homemaker is throwing a knife at you, or you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. It's that collective mind. It's multiple fingers making a fist to hit you. That's what it is. For me, I push through it. Like things still happen to me, but so much of that is about how you react to them. They have to get you in a state. They have to put you in a mindset, whether it's to like flip out and attack, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just I got real privy to like, oh, you're doing that thing, cool, fuck off, I'm gonna get a coffee, you know what I'm saying? And when you do that, they don't know how to deal with that. And stuff just stops, like, because they understand, like, oh, that's not working anymore, we can't do that, like, for example, I I couldn't go anywhere. There was a time I couldn't go anywhere because no matter where I went, cars would just like position themselves to just like hit me with their high beams. Let's say I go to a coffee shop and I'm sitting outside, like two cars are gonna park directly in front of me, high beams, just, you know what I'm saying? And it was, these are things that are done to, you know, trigger, they're triggers to make you uncomfortable, to do a lot. And a lot of it is energetic because you're dealing with dark technology, right? But I got tired of it and I just started. Oh, no, no, yeah, that I believe totally. In fact, I was talking to my friend and I were having a conversation about that, and he was talking about how like sometimes you blip in and out and they don't know where you went. It's kind of like that. Oh, here's my neighbor with the one firework. So much fun. And he only does one firework. And like shit like that, I don't give a shit anymore. Like, I don't care. But that's what he does. One firework. Hmm. Like, it's kind of sad, really. Oh, the firework is that's his contribution to the great work. Like, he'll it's to disrupt. It's just one firework. It's always just one. I can't tell you how many times there would be a situation where I would be, you know, going to sleep, chilling out, and he'll go out and set off one firework. But again, it's like that's what he does, and he can never not do that because that's his parameters. That's what he, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's like no. I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, they feed off the energy. Because what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to like disorient you, and you know what I'm saying. If you're caught off guard when something sounds like a concussive, yeah, it does. But like I knew he was gonna do that like the entire time. I was just waiting for it. Like no, when I got out here, like multiple things started happening, which just is gonna make me continue to do it. Like I don't care. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like the crap, man. It's just like, and it's just okay. They're doing the thing, and it's like, and what all I'll say is like, it ain't normal fireworks because you only caught a piece of that through the, you know, it is. Yeah, you feel that crap in your chest, but I have a really sturdy chest. Like, that's, you know, there's this weird, interesting thing too. Like, it's like in the Bible where it talks about two or more gathered in Christ's name or whatever, and it's just like it's kind of a thing like that with them too, where they'll gather. Do I live in a small town? Oh, not crazy small. I think the population's like close to like 800,000. Like, we're not doing crazy metro numbers, but it's not a podunk, you know. But I just think at the end of the day, it's like it when you get to the point where you're just like, okay, you assholes don't scare me anymore. I don't really, you don't scare me anymore. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a small town. It's a good night. What time is it where I am? That's a good question. It's 8:16. Oh, okay. Did you guys anybody get to see the Northern Lights? Um, I swear I got like that's what I saw years ago. Um, like one of the things that we would see would be like that, and not that phenomenon, but didn't see anything. Not that but like to a point where like everybody like people are seeing it that shouldn't be seeing it, not generally. Yeah, stars are nice. But everything's gonna be. The only colors just got regular back. Chrome timing and yeah. Yeah, there's that line. There's a lot of stuff in those Men in Black movies that like resonate with me, but there's a line. It's like when they, they wiped Tommy Lee Jones's memory, but they need him again, so Will Smith has to like take him from his job at the postal office to like, I guess, come in full circle, like having knowledge or stuff in your head that you can't quite get to. And he tells him, he's like, you feel like you know more about what's going on up there than you do down here. There's a reason for that. There is a reason. Middle ground, yeah. Middle dimension. Um, yeah, this there's a lot of stuff, and yeah, I should be. I feel like I should be further. Yeah, take your pup out. You have a peaceful evening too. Thank you for talking. Well, I'm grateful for your clarity. How about that? Do I like trains? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Oh, here we go. All right. Is he going for another firework? We'll see in a second. Um, I I was told something about trains a while ago. Kind of having something to do with like the protection element and like the clarity about trains because of the iron and the um I used to, and this is different from like traditional trains. I mean, I love the aesthetics. I used to have a Lionel set when I was a kid. That was always fun. Um, but when I lived in the city, um, I lived in Atlanta for like 10 years. And one of my favorite things to do would just be sitting on the MARTA. Um, and just going from one end to the other with the book or just kind of to think. Yeah. And it's crazy too because like some of those trains are just like they're covered in it, you know? And there's all this like yeah. And a lot of those what you're looking at, they're more so sigils than they are, you know, just dinky designs and yeah, it's a very strange um But I do think there is a almost like an unspoken that point of travel, like an actual train, you know. Um, there's something special about that, something otherworldly. Yeah, exactly. Yep, they do. That they do. And I think that's like, and this is just a theory, but I do think that that's like I have a weird belief about ghosts. It's I think they're a thing, but I think a lot of it has to do with like the spiritual residue of an entity or individual. Um, the parts that don't go anywhere. But like with a train, I think there's such an energetic component to the back and forth with those trains. I think that's why you know there was a time you heard a lot about those stories about like ghost trains. And I don't think it's anything particularly spooky about it. I think it's just you're dealing with like energetic residue, the trail off of it. You know what I'm saying? Manifesting in that way. There we go. But well, just give yourself a hand. You did something there, buddy. Yeah, the ley lines carry energetic residue. And that is another. Do I know it? No, yeah, I know. No, it's that special kind of psychopathy, you know. Because it's not a holiday. It's not, you know, it is almost 9 p.m. But it's like we know the reason why. Personally, I like watching them glitch out. Like when they. I'm sure. But no, I like watching them glitch out. Like when they try to do things to like. And you just don't care. And then they'll walk around in circles. And it's kind of funny. But what I'll say is that most of my neighbors are on that wavelength, if you catch my drift. You know, it just doesn't really have an effect anymore, so they don't. But I'm gonna tell you something. Like what I always get from this guy is like I feel like he's just intuitively, I feel like he's like somebody gave him a badge, you know, like he's the the neighborhood coordinator for shit like that, and he's really like proud of that. Anyway, not affecting my night. It's like, what are my plans and goals for next year? 2026. Dude. To find somewhere where I can flourish to the best of my abilities. Find a way to not be so suffocated. Find my sanctuary. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not just like you're not wrong. That's part of it. Um Cuz even like right now, like I'm like boxed in energetically. Like I'm aware of it, but yeah, it would. And if I'm being incredibly like candid, like it's like being, I don't know, it's like it's like the energetic equivalent of like prison, you know. Personally, well, first there's the element of just like, again, learning how to like protect your energy, do what you got to do. Um, I think that there are places still in this world that are okay. I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not entirely sure how 2026 is going to play out, but we are very close to something. Um, but goals are good. There's a lot of monsters out here. Anyway. I'm gonna jump off this stream. Got 2 hours already. I felt like this needed to be a thing, so I did it. I really appreciate the conversation, and dude, you're never like, I'm never gonna be offended if you know, throw out a branch. Anyway, you guys be cool to each other. We'll talk to you soon.